listening and taking part. Leave comments. I really love to hear other people's points of views of the energies that we're dealing with. This is a little bit more of a streamlined video as to what happened last night with my boys and the cat being attacked. And whoever was there, you'll know what I mean. It was a intermission video where there was lots of intermissions. So hopefully things will go smoothly. Theodore's catered for. William's he's quiet when Theodore's not aggravating him. So hopefully I'll be able to get a little bit more context on top of what we spoke about last night regarding the energies to be aware of as we enter into this 3-year period of them smashing particles together in order to disseminate and compile a equation of what particles are made of what doorways can be opened with that, what kind of dimensional shifts, timeline shifts, what kind of Mandela effects, which there will be a new term brought up and that goes viral about that for sure, that encapsulates these events the same way as the Mandela effect really encapsulated his life events or changeable life events. There'll be another terminology that comes up that encapsulates the main focus of something that goes viral, but I can guarantee regarding certain things that we know have been changed, shifted, slightly altered just by a fraction here or there, which can absolutely change the course of this seemingly destination that we sort of are traveling through, that is nothing like it's been taught in school or described to us since we were children, as in space here, land here, water here, water here. Very much I do not think, and I think there's going to be a lot more revealed regarding us being in like a toric field, a torus field, and it not being flat, but you may be concave and at the same time like an eye, able to have a dome-like shape regarding the sphere that is encapsulating. Outside of this, I feel either through dimensional shifts or just through being allowed to explore lands outside of the land that we are allowed to be in and any pilot is allowed to fly in. Those lands beyond the ice wall, there is going to be much more exploration of that, and a few people that are in power that we've never known the faces of or names of, that I feel very much so live in that extra territory freely and without any worry of harm for what they do. I really do feel there's going to be a lot of attention drawn to that, maybe even some people breaking out and in what has been described by many in the spiritual community of, is this a prison planet? No, I don't think the nature itself that is here, that is in balance, is part of a prison that we're anchored into. But I do feel at some point during this huge hijack, a very long time ago, a hijack of consciousness has built up a invisible bar matrix around us that we've all added to through being manipulated and controlled, or even doing it to ourselves, to be tied down to a certain way of thinking, to certain limitations of physics, to certain limitations of biochemistry, to certain limitations of dimensional jumps, of time travel, etc., etc. We've anchored ourselves down into these prison walls that are invisible, that are in the ether, because they exist in the consciousness of the people. So I pulled some cards, but I do feel it's very important for those in the spiritual community that are not the neophytes, that have done the hard work to become adepts at what they know, and basically of knowing thyself being the first and most important thing right now going into this next 3 years. That is going to really anchor you into a way of being grounded, but also able to expand your thought pattern, your possibilities, to expand your energetic electromagnetic neurons, to feel out other possibilities that previously were closed off to you. So for what is meant for harm, the transition that we're going through, for those that have done the work, will sneak through those gates that are in the balance point in the middle, that can really have huge revelations and huge inner knowings and inner stand-ins that lead to outer stand-ins and understandings of what we've been indoctrinated to believe or see, and what is really seen when we keep peeling these layers of veils that have been put over our eyes, that are projector screens for anybody who is in control of the consciousness that dwells and is anchored in with these eyes. The eye is represented in the tree of life for a reason. If you look at the tree of life and take the layers of symbology from it, it's an eye, it's a human eye. And so the perception is reality. And that is something that those in power, those that have hidden that knowledge, really do understand, that perception is reality. That when a lot of people in a knowing state are sort of looking at the world right now and thinking, how can there be how can there still be people that are buying the distractions, that are going along with the theft of wealth and abundance, that are going along with this mentality of lack? Like, how? And it's basically because their perception is their reality, and they are perceiving exactly what they're told to perceive. And so it is a really difficult task sometimes to be in this space in the unbalanced way that it has been for so long, since these numerous hijacks of the consciousness of humanity and limiting the powers that we hold within ourselves. This is where, it's very difficult sometimes to exist with those different eyes that can perceive things that are not known to you, because you're not limiting the lesson that can be shown to you from the universe and from the possibilities that are all around us. So it's very important to maintain every piece of work that you've been doing thus far: breath work, manifestation work, exercise, movement, being in flow, even when either side of you have things trying to take you off balance, to take you off that tightrope. Yeah, you're going to dip into them, because we all do. Many healers can't help themselves, because they do want to explore and they do want to try and reach out and heal and empower others. So we often dip into the darkest corners just naturally, because we're damn curious. And so, but it's important that we swing back up onto that tightrope quickly, and quicker than we have been before over these next 3 years, to maintain that balance point, to continue expanding forward, rather than being pulled down into the trenches of situations that a lot of people have been conditioned to believe in, that hell. And it's basically where we put ourselves, where we put our own energy and time and consciousness. So to be super discerning of the people around you, be quite cutthroat to the people that you shouldn't have around you, and be quick about it, because they know not what they do, some of them, and some of them really do know what they do and are doing it deliberately. And the narcissism, the misogyny in particular, that is growing in this chaos that is ensuing as these particles smash together and these electromagnetic fields expand out, affecting our electromagnetic fields in varying ways. As we go into that chaos, that is where we have to do what they do, and it is to create balance, to create that order out of chaos. The divine goddess-like energy is often, especially under the Christianity cult, is often talked about, as this evil, dark destroyer that comes and destroys worlds. But it's often when you're hooking into the divine feminine side of things, particularly in the dark corners of the existence that is around you, the reality that is around you, the people around you, or within self, it takes sometimes the mother energy to come in. And you know, when you get told off from your mother and she means it from her gut, that, you know, she may as well be a 9 foot bear in front of you, because she can strip away all of your excuses, all of your procrastinations, and she does it out of love, which maybe comes in to say, no, Mom, I'm going to destroy this illusion. I'm going to break down these walls. And the Mark Ali story springs to mind. And so this is where this energy that is very necessary in a very imbalanced and misogynistic, vile, sticky space, on top of this beautiful space, layering this beautiful nature space. This is where the destroyer comes in, and it needs to, and it's necessary, but it has been tainted and distorted into being this destructive, satanic type being or type energy. And so there is sometimes over these next 3 years that we're going to have to, as a collective of people who are aware and exploratory, we're going to have to really channel that divine feminine energy. And just without even trying, it will seem that we attract chaos, because we are just walking our balance point. And, you know, that electromagnetic field that we're putting out, that is exploratory and limitless and open to the possibilities, really doesn't go well, doesn't, you know, isn't invited to the party of a very narcissistic, very lower frequency space, a very much so fixed mentality or fixed belief system. This exploratory, like flowers in the hair, hugging a tree, you could be doing those things that mean great things, really, when you take them apart spiritually, and you will be labeled, they will try and tear at you. And this is where we really do have to channel that divine feminine energy in that space and have that brutal honesty to say, be gone. You know, I will not stay in your hall of mirrors. I'll smash my way out if I have to. So, but that presence will attract that attention and that response. So I pulled some cards just to clarify on the back of the disaster video last night, just to back up what was coming through. And so again, there is a repeat. So we've got the 7 of Wands that came up last night. And so this 7 of Wands is the attraction of attention. And you can see that this is the upper ground is there, and you're on that upper ground. If this reading resonates with you and what I've said thus far resonates with you, and that upper ground can be found, but no matter how quietly you tread, and it's almost a message to say, don't tread quietly, because even that is sort of a submissive state to these chaotic energies around you. You know, tread boldly through your path. And, you know, yes, there will be attention given to you, attention to me. And this is where you will have to ward off things with your wand, with your fire. And it will take channeling that fire, that dragon breath, that divine feminine energy, transmuting into the divine masculine energy, to sometimes take action to protect your space, to protect your field, your electromagnetic field. Because just as they are obsessed with exploring the unseen in order to basically take over even more territory, to learn how to take over even more territory of our consciousness by taking apart certain particles to see how it works, see how it's put together, in order to use that and utilize that in data mining and real-time biochemical feedback data in order to control and manipulate and divert huge masses of populations all at once from a remote place. So it is going to be intense, but while they are doing what they are doing, the universe is basically giving you the message to do the same, or be aware that the same will be happening around you. You will find yourself in spaces where, in the Seven of Wands, that you feel like these particles are smashing up against you, trying to break you down, trying to see how they can get in to see what the makeup of your consciousness is, and where the weaknesses are, where the control points are, where the trigger points are. And so that is being reflected in our lives as they do this experimentation for the next 3 years. That is being absolutely directly reflected in our eyes, in our lives, eyes as well. And so the 7 layers of hell spring to mind too, in that, we are going to walk through very chaotic spaces that at times could feel like hell, but actually being able to walk through these chaotic spaces and create order where order can be created makes you the creator of a new reality. It makes you the director of a new script, of a new narrative, of you building literally and taking that power on board, and really understanding that with that inner work of knowing thyself, we can become intrepid explorers and reality makers, consciously, with conscious intent, just as they are doing for quite a dark intent right now. That doesn't mean we can't slip through this window of opportunity in the time and space that we're existing in, that is opening itself up to us. And yes, with that being said, particles, people, egos will bang up against your electromagnetic field. So it's really strong that you're doing that core inner work of that self balance, self-knowing, self-inspiring, not being at those low trigger points where you are afraid of judgment, where you are afraid of how other people see you, where you are afraid of, you want to tread lightly through it because you don't want to attract this chaos. Unfortunately and fortunately, it is for a lot of us that are here right now, and we know we are for reasons that really do sit at the root of us, that we will walk through chaotic spaces, and not to regret that, to do it unapologetically and not change your perception of self at the whim of somebody else, but to be wise and realize when something is reflecting back at you that you need to understand or change up or explore more, and when actually it's just not yours to own, and that person is just trying to, or that those persons are trying to externalize their bullshit because they're terrified, which is why they're living in chaotic spaces in their own realities. They're terrified of looking at those depths and corners of self that they're anchored into, that are very limited and fixed in mindset. The Empress comes up to clarify the Seven of Wands. And so this is the number 3 major arcana card, and it's always important to remember that through your thoughts, 1, words, 2, and deeds, 3, they create your reality. So it's that karma dharma thing, from the conception of thought, just like a creative, you're creating a being, a pregnancy, that conception of thought. So being really really discerning and really on board and in that Empress energy of not being pulled down into these chaotic spaces of a mentality of lack, of a mentality of limitations, but to absolutely be the director of your thoughts, and be very cognizant of the types of thoughts that you are having. Even for those that come against you, with that Seven of Wands being the card that this Empress clarifies, even for those that come against you, to be very discerning of what your thought process is regarding them, to try to not dip into be real, yes. Be cutthroat, yes. Do what you need to do to keep that reality from affecting yours, and limiting yours and anchoring you down into a lower frequency. Do all of that you need to do as a spiritual warrior, and make no mistake, many of you are spiritual warriors, and you've been psyops to believe that love and light, as beautiful a message as it is, has been very diluted and very distorted, and you've been put into a mentality of this Jesus character of, of being submissive, to the point of people being allowed to nail you to the cross, to call you a heretic, to call you a witch, to do all of those things that this story that they obviously follow because they quote a lot, of judgment and allowing judgment from others, to be able to be very cognizant of those thoughts, even that you have about those that come against you. Because even though it's very important to dissect things and understand them and transmute them, if we're starting to hold on to thoughts of hatred, of wanting to harm others, wanting to, they've got you. Even though you think you're doing them no favors by dwelling on something, instead of just putting out the projection that you need to put out towards them to get their chaos to back the fuck off your electromagnetic field, your aura, unless you are just doing that and then transmuting and moving on. But if you find yourself slipping off your hill with the Seven of Wands, with the attention that you're attracting, if you find yourself losing ground and slipping off your hill, you look at yourself and wonder, have I been actually tricked into thinking I'm doing you no favors by these types of projections and thoughts I'm putting out about you, but I actually got a little bit addicted, a little bit stuck in that mentality and those thoughts, and so it doesn't bode well for me getting out of the hell that they've created for themselves, that they just want to pull many people down into, and the limitations, giving them the cannon fodder to externalize their bullshit onto. So be very cognizant of that, be very Empress-like. The Empress is of abundance. She is of the full understanding that the concept of thought is the concept of a creative source, and to draw that creative source through yourself, through spirit, into the physical reality is the gift of the Empress. Being able to use your breath literally to make flowers dance, using that the energy and breath that you expel for a plant to inhale and use and utilize and literally grow abundance right in front of you. The Empress encapsulates that whole cycle of when we work with plants, they respond to us well. When we sing with them, they love the frequencies, and there's been discoveries that they're singing back. To be in true connection like that, as the Empress is throughout this walk over the next 3 years, is going to be so important. I can't tell you, regarding not getting into the fear tactics. Yes, being knowing and discerning, and come up against those energies that are trying to implement a matrix and layers of limitations of what your reality can be, and how well you can live in this space, how well you can bring up your young in this space. Be very cognizant of that. Yes, transmute that, come up against it when you need to. This is the Empress, but be aware that there's a lot of trickery to keep you in that space for too long, so that you then find yourself in another limited mentality, in another lack mentality. And yes, and all of those psyopses of lack and limitations are going to ensue over the next 3 years. The food shortages, when there's no food shortage, the land hasn't stopped growing food. They are manipulating and creating wars literally to make it look like there is a good excuse for the lack that they are creating. They've got no moral ground, let's face it, to be calling Russia anything. And I'm not being agreeable with the Russian government at all, but I'm saying they've got no moral ground to be doing that. And then at the same time dealing with Saudi Arabia in the UK, but then at the same time, actually, they've got no moral ground just in their own rights. They've gone around enabling the church to rape and pillage many lands and continue to do so, and they're going to try and up the ante of that over the next 3 years. So it is going to be quite chaotic. So the next card is the Two of Cups, and it's in reverse. And so this is where there is this real energy of them dissecting what we would have inside of us that resembles the divine feminine and divine masculine, that energy that combines to create a force of friction to help move each other up, to make that figure of 8, the eternal symbol, up and out and around again, the recirculating, regenerating energy that we have. This divine feminine and divine masculine energy is partly what they're exploring through CERN for sure, as to where does this come from, what it is, what makes it up, what attributes do these particles have that are reflected in these beings, certain beings that are in connection and in balance with their divinities and use their divinities in their physical reality. What is it that we can take apart? How can we break this down? How can we become the middleman, just like the churches became the middlemen of sovereignty and freedom, or connection to creative source? This is where they really are going to be fully exploring that equation as to what is this invisible force of divinity that some people seem to have so strongly within them, and how do we limit even more people from having that imbalance? How do we even use this huge force that when people have it working, that kundalini energy, when people have that kind of force of power, they know that source of power, even from just one person, could fuel things, could shift dimensions, could shift realities quickly. So if they can learn how to be the middleman of that, or in control of that, or hijack that, put that in reverse, that would be very, very powerful for them. So again, really engaging with that divine feminine empress energy, that fire wand energy, really engaging with your divinities and really utilizing them, just like you use your circulation unconsciously because your body is just so used to doing it. Get as good as that with your divine feminine, of knowing when to sit back and create and conceive, and when to allow that divine masculine to create that action, those contractions, those movements, to project that conception of a thought into the reality outside of self, like the projector screen, like your eyes are the projector screen. Remember, your thoughts, your words, and your deeds create the reality that you live in. And so the next cards to clarify the Two of Cups comes up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 of Wands. Wow. So this very much is the battered and bruised warrior that is having to take a pause regularly to recalibrate, to think through the next steps, to discern what has gone before them. Remember, 9 being the key to the realm of all possibilities. It's the upright 6, and so this is where the 9 is a great multiplier in numerology of numbers, and it opens up gates when you know how to use it correctly. So the 9 of Wands does represent energy, a person that has been burnt many times. And again, I want to say that the people that know they're here for reasons beyond just diversion and a bit of fun while we're here, this is where you are going to be battered and bruised. You're going to have attracted that energy in with that 7 of Wands, because it's seemingly what we do up in this space, sometimes without even wanting to. Just that electromagnetic field, that space that we're holding, disrupts other fields, creates chaos around when they don't align with our more limitless mindset. So it is about being super discerning as to how you engage your divinities in the next steps forward, and how you really engage your creative source within self to project out the reality that with intent that you know will be good for you and good for your further self-exploration. We've got the 9 again with the Hermit card, major arcana, and this is a very strong card. It's the warrior that holds up that light in the dark, to bring light to the darkest corners of self. It is the healer that walks on rocky ground. You can see the ground that this hermit's walking on is represented as being a rocky ground. I call him the silent and blind to the eyes warrior. He just holds up this light that represents your self, exploration of self, and holding that lantern up into some of the darkest, most scary parts of self that we really need to look at and transmute. And instead of them being an anchor point into a limited mentality, a layer that keeps us just held back from our greatness each time, being brave enough to really look at that, dissect it, and turn it around, like the 6 can be turned around to the 9 and vice versa, turn it around to be a source of power, a source of truth, a source of a lesson that can take you further forward. And this very much so goes with the 9 of Wands here. And so when things are being turned upside down in your life, don't immediately shy away from it. Look at it, transmute it, be brave enough to know self, every part of self, past lives, this life, just all of the fractals of you, to be able to draw in that power of the 9. We've got the King of Pentacles in reverse here. And so you see that there is much narcissistic, misogynistic energy that is very much either trying to lock you away in these darkest, scary corners of self, or trying to lock you with contracts, new contracts, very similar to the old contracts that have been used and utilized to hold people into this limited and lack mentality with the monetary system, the birth certificate system. There are a lot of changes being made to take that forward into the ethers. They want to create a territory, ownership, sticking flags into the ether, into the consciousness, into the particles that we don't see. They want to take that extra territory. That is the space exploration. I fully believe that that is a part of this warp speed. And so this very narcissistic, misogynistic, business-like vibe, contracts being made behind our backs that then will be sort of tricked in to just accepting that that's how it is, or we'll be tricked into even clapping them and saying, yay, well done, another etherical contract, thank you. That's something that's very much going on right now. And be aware of Trump. Be aware of that re-entrance of him being all over the place. Be aware of Elon. Be aware of what they call space exploration. They are very much hooked into, with this King of Pentacles in reverse, hooked into a very negatively, the phone's ringing, negatively vibed takeover of a conscious field, and very much are hooked into the very, very lucrative business of data mining of people's consciousness in real time, data mining people's bodies in real time, and being able to float that data on the stock market, being able to float that information on the stock market. And so it's a step up from the kind of contractual ownership that these powers that be, that shouldn't be, have had over us for a long time. It's a step up as we go into this new cycle of exploration over the next 3 years of the data mining of people and being able to float that. So it's a new concept and delivery system of slave labor for sure, and it'll be the consciousness labor. And so, you know, very cruel, and there will be a lot of information coming out. This chaos that ensues, these particles that they're breaking together, has this shake-up effect. And so this means we can be using it for greatness right now, in that there are a lot of very dark truths coming out and will continue to do so, regarding just how blind we've been to how many missing children go missing from the care of social services, from the care of foster carers, from right off in the street, and parents and people, anybody that may be looking for them, if the children were even a slither of lucky enough to have somebody that would look for them, or being silenced. There'll be a lot more videos breaking through and coming forward regarding people who've been attempting to look for a child or their child and have been silenced. And that is great, because in this shake-up, in this chaos, in these particles, you know, and these fields being opened up, that chaos will be chaos, and things will be unearthed that should be unearthed. Yes, there'll be lots of distractions. Yes, this is where the discernment of the 9 of Wands comes in. But in that shake-up, inevitably, there will also be a lot of truths that come out. So it's important for us, again, with this 9 of Wands and this Hermit card, this wise warrior, to be very clear and discerning as to what we give a voice to lend the gift of our support and our voice to things that really do resonate with us, that really or could get just silenced by the chaos, or we could really extrapolate and draw them out and give great attention to them in order to maybe cause more chaos. Yes, more particles, more people butting heads, but it will be those people in power that are butting heads. There is so much that this, and the hermit really does represent, and it's taken very lightly a lot of the time in tarot readings, but that 9 is that realm of all possibilities within self. But it's the ability to not look with your eyes, your physical eyes, to look with this inner lantern and really be able to draw light with this King of Pentacles in reverse to some of the darkest setups of the systems we've been living under. And a lot of that over the next 3 years with this Empress at the start of the card is going to be going back and revisiting and really trying to give voice to the fact that nearly all of the systems, if not all, that are built up in the Western world and a bit beyond are built on harm of children, on the selling of children, on the abuse of children, and that it functions as a hidden monetary system for those that are very wealthy and in the know of it. I feel like there's going to be truths coming out with Amazon very similar to the Wayfair experience, that people are going to start to see certain inanimate objects that really should cost very little cost 5 grand, 6 grand, 10 grand. And it is a case of, you know, is it Amazon, or is it just them being as bad as being able to turn a blind eye? Or is it just the fact that there are these dark ones? They're not all from the government, that are that work with governments or don't, that will utilize whatever is out there, whatever goes viral, whatever reaches the biggest audience, and they'll do it right in under your nose. There is more truths and threads of truths to be pulled of that will lead, pull that jumper apart, that will lead to these names. And I guarantee you nearly all of them will be in places of power, either in business or in the churches or parliament or Senate type places. So this is going to be around, and this is where we really do need to be discerning enough to stop and pause and only give voice to the things that really could pull that jumper, and be aware that that's going to cause some chaos in the interim, and we need to be strong with that. We need to be strong like this divine feminine Empress energy of really keeping focused on our thoughts, our words, or deeds create the reality that we live in. And we cannot do more harm by creating a reality where children are more safe, where children are more valued. We really are going to see the throes of really, while these particles and people and truths and lies are smashing together through CERN and projected onto our reality. This 4 of Pentacles is on the bottom of the deck for the clarifying deck, and it's this miserly energy, very much so right here with this King of Pentacles, of like gripping, holding on for dear life to old constructs, because if they don't hold on to them very carefully and strategically, then a lot of things can be, a lot of tea can be spilt, a lot of truths can come out, and they want to be able to at least hold on and carry that wealth and that power to be able to do things right under our noses and be free of arrest and torture. You know, they're very much so trying to do that. So we've got an opportunity right now, while these particles are smashing together energetically and they're dissecting them, we will see a reflection of that in our communities. Unfortunately, with that, we will see a rise in people going crazy. I've seen a lot of Kundalini psychosis where people have come into an awakening, but they actually haven't done the steps that many of you have, of really going with that Hermit card energy, that 9, of being brave enough to explore self and having those building blocks of spirituality that anybody should expect when they're doing any kind of Kundalini teaching, guidance work with anybody. I'll tell people straight, if I don't feel secure in the fact that they are ready, it's up to them if they then go away and explore themselves. But as their guide, I very often have said, you need to do more work before you try and start raising snakes. raising that creative source. You know, come on, you need to be able to know that you're not going to spin out your chakras with that kind of energy, because you haven't sort of exercised your energetic points, your chakra points very much at all, if at all. And so charging that energy up and through them, bit risky, and it has caused a lot of energetic point spin outs, that I'm calling it, threading of screws, where it's just like turning, and there's no grip, because they didn't have those building blocks to anchor them into a somewhat safe space. So they didn't, you know, go off into the ethers, you know, and get into this psychosis, because it's too much too soon. And so there is a lot of that. Be aware of that. Again, be that discerning Empress and divine masculine energy as to where you put your energy, where you put your attention, where you give your pearls of wisdom, where you plant your seeds, what kind of soil you're planting seeds in. Make sure it's well nourished, well balanced, and make sure it's like, you know, not acidic, not too alkaline, just in the middle. You know, very much a balanced state before you can start charging that kind of energy through people. So on the bottom of the other deck is the Three of Cups. And this is a celebration card. And this is where I want to say that underneath that is the Nine of Swords, where there is this nightmare-like energy and a shake-up of electromagnetic fields. It ain't all bad. The intent that these people are doing it for in CERN, again, that just can't help themselves but to explore. You can't knock some of them for that. Some of the scientists in there that really just want to explore and take apart everything so they can put everything back together. They're not all evil either, but it's the intent that things can be used for. So I feel that there is a surge of divine feminine energy within this CERN experiment that can be drawn out and utilized with great intent for the greatness of yourself and those around you that decide also to take that on board. Or you can be put in this nine of all possibilities, a realm of nightmares with this Nine of Swords. But for those that are really in a standing, the fact that this equation very much so is encapsulated in that Tesla. It's kept coming back to me real strong, the 3-6-9 premise of when you understand the magic of the combination of 3 and 6 and 9 and how to apply it, then you open the doors to the universe. You open your doors to possibilities, and that is there for us to extrapolate and use also. And it's really important that we get really you know, on point with this, rather than being in this victim mentality and panic mode. Say, okay, you know, we know there's a lot of people connected to this experiment that are going to use this for negative intent, but we're going to actually take the hint from the universe and use it for ourselves also, because it's an electromagnetic field. It is reaching out beyond its beyond where it's encapsulated. It will reach out. I can feel it. And so for those that can really take on board that divine feminine goddess who has been depicted as the destroyer, and really reach into that and explore self with that, then there is greatness ahead for sure. So I hope this explains it more. I hope this gives you more of an inner standing. I just want to add up on the, so we've got 4, 7, 8, 17, 37. Is that right? 37. That would take us into the 10. There are like 10 families that I do feel live in this extra territory that have been hidden from us. And I do feel there's going to be more coming out about them and the makeup of them and what they are and what they do. That's something to be aware of for sure. But I'm going to let you go because there's somebody at the door, and the house gets busy when I do a video, but that's okay. So much love, balance and wholeness. Please let people know about this channel. Help me grow, and I hopefully will help you grow simultaneously. Really do want to get serious about this abundance thing and attract it in. And I'm not closed off to it. I've been doing a lot of inner work myself to get out of any of those anchor points that would anchor me into lack mentality. And there was much of that in my childhood, not from my mother, but from others around her, and very negative feminine energies in particular that tried to anchor us into a very lack mentality. So I've been doing a lot of inner work in that, and I'm going to be open about that and speak about that. But in that openness, I'm saying, help me grow and I'll help you grow, and I'll always work for your favor and your greatness on your behalf with your permission. But I give you my permission to help me grow too, in abundance, in wealth, in health, in balance, because that's how we can reciprocate it amongst ourselves and grow stronger and stronger. Much love, balance and wholeness always. Mwah.